Hey guys, this is week 7 of Visual Communications 103. So let's get started. So first of all, our first task is to export a Flash file for use in an HTML file. And as we went over in class, you can't just open a Flash file directly in any kind of browser. It has to be implemented with some special code in HTML. So the first method we'll use is just opening up Flash. I'm going to go ahead and just create a new file, and it really doesn't matter what's in it. So I'm just going to put some content here just so we can recognize our Flash file. So and again, sorry that it's cramped. I just have to set the resolution low to record this video. So we've got our artwork right here. So the first way is to go into, under File there's Publish Settings, Publish Preview, and it gives you a couple choices, and then Publish. In our Publish Settings we can just set where or what kind of file we export it as and where it's going to be exported to. So the first one is Flash, and Flash's sort of executable file that runs on the web is called a SWF, and that stands for Shockwave File. And we can also choose to export an HTML document along with it, which will have the embed code automatically built into it. We can export it as a GIF image or animation, and also a JPEG image or sequence of JPEGs, as well as PNGs. And then you can make it a Windows executable program that you can open up on your desktop, or a Macintosh application which you can open up on the desktop for Macs. But all we need to worry about for now is Flash and HTML. So let's go ahead and set our location. So I'm just going to create a new folder on the desktop. So on this left column you've got Places, Set Desktop. I'm just going to call it Flash. But first I need to create a new folder, so I'm going to create a new folder, call it Flash Week 7, and go ahead and hit Save, and then HTML, same folder, we're going to call it Index. Alright, hit OK. After that, we just go to Publish, and it does it pretty quickly. So we go to our Finder. So I hit Command Tab to get to this little menu. Switching over to Finder, and to hide everything else, yeah, there we go. So I'm gonna hit Desktop. Here's our folder. I'm gonna open that, and we see two files which I just created. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that in a browser. So I'm gonna open that with Firefox. And okay, as you can see, this is my Flash file that I just created. If I right click on it, you'll see that we get the Adobe Flash menu, and then we can just check the source code. And in most browsers it's either Command U or Command Option U, but if you want to check, it's also under the View menu, and it says Page Source. So we can view the code of any HTML page on the web with that method. So as you can see, this is all the code that goes in to putting a Flash element on the page, which you can see is a lot. But right here under the Scripts tab, this is where the actual Flash file is placed. You can see where is it? I called it Flash, so the name's going to be Flash, and the movie file is going to be called Flash. And it's pulling its plugins from this page. Let's see. And it's telling the width and height. Oh, source. Sorry. That's the actual name of the file. So there it is. And you can see here, this is the object embed tag, and there's the value for flash.swif. So as you can see, there's a lot of code that goes into it, but the cool thing is we didn't really have to program any of it. It just spit all that out automatically, so that's really convenient. However, if you want to have more content than just a Swift file on your page, you're going to have to, well, there's going to be a couple methods. One is we can open this in a text editor like Dreamweaver, so I'm going to go ahead and open it. So here's all that code. Now if I want to put any other content on the page, I can just switch to the split view, and you can see we've got a big gray box with an F in the middle, so that's our Flash file. If I click on it, I have all kinds of editing options in the property panel. You've got the width and height, and you can actually drag the width and it'll do that pretty easily. You can also hit play down here, and that will give you a preview of the Flash file within Dreamweaver. So it's thinking, and here it is. You can also hit stop. Also, if you've saved the FLA file, which is the Flash source file, you can click edit and it's going to ask you where it is. We actually haven't saved it yet. As you can see, there's a star right here, which means that it's unsaved. So we're going to have to cancel that. But if we save this in the same folder, so I'm going to call it flash.fla. Now if we click to edit, it'll ask us to locate it. Here it is. Click open, and it's already open, but we can make changes to it. And a quick way to save your Swift is just to hit Command Enter inside of Flash. So when I do that, it's going to kick out a new preview. And so you can see if I add another shape right here, Command Enter, there it is. So now when I go over to Dreamweaver and hit play, you're going to see that extra little segment. So Command Enter is the hotkey for previewing your Flash file, and that's also under Publish Preview Flash. So it'll automatically save your Flash file when it creates a preview of it. Okay, but what I was saying earlier is if we want to add any extra content, one method is just to kind of code around this document that it spit out automatically. So this is my Flash file. And then I can go ahead and preview this. It's going to ask me to save, say yes. Now I've got text in there with my file. Okay, the other way to embed a Flash file is through Dreamweaver. So I'm going to close this, create a new HTML document, and you can go to the Insert menu and choose Media, Swift. And it says you need to save first. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to that folder we just created, which is on the desktop. And I'm going to save this as index1. And what's it asking me for? Oh, since I had asked it to embed a Swift file, now it's asking me what Swift file I want to embed. So I'm just going to click on that, hit choose, ask me if I want to put a title in it. That's completely optional. So Flash content, and here it is. Only the difference this time is it's going to save a couple extra files. As you can see here, we've got a JS file, which stands for JavaScript. It wants to save this, and then also I think there was a second JS file somewhere. But when we hit save on our document, it's going to ask us, oh, I see. It's going to save an extra Swift file and a JS file. So when we hit OK, if we go back to our folder, we see there's a new folder. It's called scripts, and it contains these two files which are necessary to get that code to run. Whereas when we spit it out directly from Flash, we didn't need any extra files. It was just the index, the HTML file, and the Swift file. in this case, in order to embed this Swift file, Dreamweaver wants to include these other twos. So if you do that method and you save it, but then later on you're having issues, it's probably because your path to your JavaScript file is off. So you need to make sure where it says source here that it's under the same folder, and it's also relative to where your index file is. Alright, so that's method 2, embedding it directly through Dreamweaver. The third method I think is better for coders, but probably a little harder for beginners, in that it uses a lot less code on the user's part, and it just creates a much cleaner page, but it does involve a few more steps. So I've included a link here in your notes to this flowplayer.org. Let's just go there. Here they show, if I right click on this, you'll see it's a Swift file. They've embedded this using just a few short lines of code. First, you've got this line of code that's including their little proprietary JavaScript file. Then you've got a div with an ID where you want the Swift file to be placed, and then inside of your jQuery you type this line of code. Now this is some CSS code that's used to style your Swift, your item or content. And then there's additional configuration options you can type in, but they're not necessary. But in order to get this to run, you need to download this Flash embed code. So let's go download menu up here at the top, and we can check which ones we want. We don't want any of these, and we do want to include the jQuery source code. And here's the Flash embed, so click download now. It'll save it as a single JavaScript file, so I'm going to go to my desktop, and here it is. So I'm just going to throw that in the same folder, jQuery.tools.min.js. I'm going to go into Dreamweaver, create a brand new document. Alright, so we're just going to follow their instructions. So let's see. The first step is to include this script code, but you'll notice this is a little different. This says toolbox.flashembed.min.js, whereas ours is jQuery.tools.min.js. So we're going to want to have this where it says source equals. So copy this line of code, go ahead and paste that in the head somewhere, and change this so it says jQuery.tools.min. Alright, so that's step 1. Step 2 is we need to create a div where we want to place the Swift file. So I'm going to go here, type in div id equals, and then this needs to be the same as the code that we call in the JavaScript. So I'm just going to call it flash-item. Alright, close it off. Next step is to place this code inside of a script tag. So we're going to go to the bottom, after body, type script, type equals text/JavaScript. Alright, and inside of there, we're going to place that code. So this is just saying call the Flash embed function, and then next it's saying place it inside of a div with this name. So we called it Flash item, so let's call it Flash item. And then it's going to ask for our file. So ours isn't inside of a folder called Swift, so we're just going to call for flash.swift because that's the name of this file right here. And it's in the same, it's going to be in the same folder as our HTML file, so we don't need any slashes or any other folder names. after we've done all that, we should be good to go. So let's go ahead, and you'll notice right here it's just a blank div, so when we click on it we won't get those options because it's not an actual Swift. So let's save that, call it index2, and when we preview it, there is always some kind of issue. So let's view our code. Okay, I figured out what the problem was. It was actually really simple. I just forgot to include the style tag. It was actually, nothing was wrong with the code that I put. So I actually just needed to follow the last step. And I actually didn't think that was necessary, but it actually is. So for this code, we need to copy it. We need to create a style tag. And inside of there, paste that, and they have it set by default to say clock. Ours needs to be the same as our ID and also in the Flash call. So since we called it Flash item, we've got to style it Flash item. Right now the width and height is set to 250 by 250, but ours is actually 720 by 480. So we're going to save that, and here it is. So those are the 3 different methods. Okay, now I'm just going to real quickly, well hopefully quickly, jump into Flash and create a few simple buttons. So I'm going to have one, but first of all our button is going to take us to a different frame, and then the second method we're just going to have it actually perform some functions. So I just created a square. I'm holding command and clicking on it, then I'm going to right click on it and convert it to a symbol. We're going to call this button 1. And we also, in the properties, let's see, wherever that is, this panel, we need to give it an instance name, so we'll call it button 1. Okay, now we've got another item. We're going to make this red. And let's right click on that, convert to a symbol. We're going to call this box. And in the properties panel, give it an instance name of box. Alright, so now we're ready to begin coding. Well, first, for the first method, we're going to make use of the timeline. So I'm going to place my timeline here. Don't really have much space. I might drag my actions over to here. Okay. So now I got some more space. Alright, so in order to make, by clicking this, we want to make this red box disappear. I'm going to go to, we've only got one frame here, so I'm going to create a new frame. So the way we can do that, there's actually a number of ways. We can first hold Option and click and drag on that frame, and that will just make a duplicate of that frame. So in this frame, I'm actually going to delete that item. So we got frame 1 has both, frame 2 has none. And to put some code on here, I'm going to create a new layer. We're going to call this code. So I double clicked on that. So now I click inside of the empty code frame, go to actions, and first of all, I'm just going to tell Flash to stop. So by default, Flash begins playing the timeline as soon as it starts. So we've got to tell it to stop. Well, let me show you what happens if I don't say that. So if I go ahead and hit Command Enter, we're going to get this flickering effect. And that's because it's playing in a loop. So we're playing frame 1, 2, and then it's looping back to frame 1. So it's going back and forth like that. So by telling it to stop, and we hit Command Enter, we'll not have that flickering anymore. Alright. The next thing I want to do is tell it that by clicking on button 1, which is this blue thing, we want to go to frame 2 and stop. So we're going to say, all right, so oops, we need to call it by name, so it's called button1, and then dot on release. And you'll notice it turns blue because that's a Flash ActionScript kind of defined term, and ActionScript knows what this term means. If we were to make it lowercase, it would turn black because it doesn't recognize that. So it is case sensitive. So dot on release equals function, and then open close parentheses. That's where we can place some optional parameters that we don't need in this case. Then we're going to do open and close brackets, and inside of that, that's where our command is going to go. So we're going to tell it to tell box, or actually no, we're just going to tell it to go to and stop. You notice its go to is all lowercase, and then A and S are capitalized. Go to and stop, and then tell it what frame. So we want to go to frame 2, and then I'm going to hit semicolon, and let's see if it works. So we can see that it's a button now because our cursor turns into a hand. So hopefully when we click on it, it worked. So we went to frame 2 where this does not exist, and it stopped. Now I'm going to tell it to go to and play, and whoops. Can you guys guess what might happen when we click on it? It's gonna disappear and then reappear. And that's because oops, we're going to frame 2 and play, and by playing it's gonna automatically loop back to frame 1. But frame 1 it tells it to stop. So that's why it just appears and disappears. Okay, let's see if there's any other methods. If we want, we can tell it to stop. So by default, it's going to be flickering, and when we click on this, it'll stop the animation. So you can do that too. Okay, you can also use other things besides, actually before we go on, I'm going to change this back to, I'm just going to cut this and paste it at the beginning. So I'm going to go to, tell it to go to and stop frame 2, and then that's it. We can do other things besides release, and on release means when you click down and then let go of the mouse, that's the on release. If we do on press, that's as soon as you push down on the mouse button. There's also on roll over, and that's going to make it so as soon as our mouse goes over it, it's going to cause it to react. So there, I didn't even click. We can also have it say on roll out. So now when I roll over, it does nothing, but as soon as I move my mouse off of it, it's going to go to frame 2. Okay, now let's say I want to do the same thing but only with one frame. So I'm actually going to delete this second set of frames. So I'm going to highlight them by clicking and dragging, and then I'm going to right click and remove frames. So now we only have one frame to work with, but we still want to have the same effect. So instead of telling it to go to frame 2, we're going to tell it that we want box dot underscore visible equals false. So we're referring to the instance name of this box by typing in box, and then dot underscore visible, it's going to inquire about the state of its visibility, and we're going to tell it to equal false, which is not visible. So let's try it. And didn't seem to work, so let's see what went wrong. when button 1, oh, because it's on rollout. Let's see if that's the issue. Actually, that seemed to do it. So when we roll in and roll out, it disappears. So it actually did work. But let's change it to on press. So now when I click, it disappears. You can also tell it to cause itself to disappear. So this automatically refers to whatever is already being called to. So button 1 right now is having this operation applied to it. So we can just say this, and it's going to refer back to button 1. So when we click on it, it's going to disappear. And we can do the same thing with the other one. So we can say box.onPress, cause it to disappear. So you can do any kind of combination. All right, so those are the basics. If you want to go further with your code, inside of the notes, I've placed some more code. So this is the code we've been over, and then these mouse events. But then you can also do stuff with tweening, and that's adding action script driven animation. You can also load other Flash clips inside of this Flash clip. And I guess I'll just show you that real quick. So I'm going to create a new Flash movie, and I'm going to change the size of it. So modify document, I'm going to set it to 100 by 100, and I'm going to set the background to red. So here it is. I'm just going to put a big X on it. Save it. I'm going to call it x.fla, and then hit Command Enter, and that's going to automatically create a Swift file for me. So I've got x.swift. So if I want to load that in place of one of these things, I'm just going to, in this code, so we're going to say box.onPress load movie, and then it gives me a little code hint here. So the URL is the name of the file that we want to load and where it's located. So it's just x.swift, but we actually have to put it in quotes. So x.swift, comma target. I think we can type this. Hit enter. Let's see if it works. And it replaced it with the X. But you notice it didn't display the background color. So that's that. All right. Hope this is helpful. Have fun.